Redondo. It's my pleasure to welcome my co-host for today, Scott Benson and Alina Melodina. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hey,
All right, so we're excited to have another show today. I'm going to start it off with a little humor. I know, Scott, you had a challenging weekend that I want you to share just a piece of, and then I'm going to share a challenging piece that I'm dealing with and why. If you notice, I'm not in my usual cool background. I'm in the upper level of my house. I had to relocate, and the reason is I had a fire alarm, the battery go dead. And this is actually somebody everybody has to deal with in their house, so it is relevant to our show. But I have a beautiful office with a 22-foot ceiling, and from about 9 o'clock last night till now, and I don't have a ladder to do this, I hear beep every 30 seconds. So that's why I'm upstairs in a different office, relocated for the show. But Scott, you also had a challenging time at an airport this weekend.
oh yeah, you bring up a sore subject, but I'll make it really
The
quick.
visualization that you gave me, though, I have to talk about.
All right, so I'm stuck on a plane, Southwest Airlines, and first off, they let one too many people on the plane. So then they have to go through, they check every single person's ID on the plane against the manifest, trying to find out who's on the plane that shouldn't be. It was an absolute disaster. But while this is going on, the heat is stuck on the airplane, so it's swelteringly hot. I have two very beautiful young girls, 8 and 10 years old, that are on the flight with me, and they didn't feel good before they got on the plane. Well, they waited till we got up into the air, and let's just say that things projected from places they shouldn't project from, and it made for a very, very messy flight, messy, smelly flight that, oh my God, it was brutal. And then we get in at 2:30 in the morning. So, I might be a little slow today because I'm still recovering from, that event. And I might have, ongoing terrors in the night from thinking about that particular flight. So yeah, that was my.
And I feel bad because all I meant was your shoe falling apart when you're walking through the airport. I didn't mean to bring up the whole airplane situation, but
yeah. Well, and then I had hiking boots on because I'd been in Washington up in the mountains and it was beautiful. But then the bottom sole of my boot, which was a great boot, just came off as I'm going through the airport. So yeah, it was great. It was awesome.
Scott had a horrible. So you know what would make that feel better? You know what makes that feel better? If you were flying and landing in Miami Beach, which
That's true.
brings us to Alina Melodina. So Alina, I don't know if you have any struggles that we're dealing with right now, but if you want to share, fine. But if not, let's dive into some local community talk.
Well, I don't have any crazy, news about
Good.
planes and about the alarm. But since I'm in the vacation rental business, you know how many times we were getting a calls at 3 a.m. in the morning. Oh my God, my fire alarm can't let me sleep, and we have to send a person, first thing in the morning to fix it. It happens
Yes.
all the time. You have to be on top
Can
of
you send the person
those
here?
little beeping devices.
Yeah.
If I can send it in person, yeah, it's gonna be very expensive. He lives in Miami.
Darn it. So what community can we talk about today? Last week we started off with what was it, Coral Gables, and then we did Fort Lauderdale last episode. What community are we going to talk about today, and what's special about that?
We're gonna be talking about Brickell. Brickell is the area in Miami, and it's very special. A lot of New Yorkers love the city. Actually, it's a little area in Miami, right? It's not really the city, and because it reminds them Manhattan, I guess, with all high rises and a lot of small restaurants. Everything is walkable. So we're talking about Brickell.
Are we doing a lot of condos there, or what type of housing do they have?
Mostly condominiums, and a lot of new condominiums. It's one of the most desirable area to live in if you want to live in a condominium. Yes,
Nice.
brand new, beautiful buildings. One of them, let's say, for instance, Flatiron. It's like 50 stories. Property with monthly rent allowed, then Icon 1, 2, and 3, then 4 Seasons. It has a lot of big names. This city has a lot of big names. And then it has a little area which is Brickell Key, There's old condominiums there, and all the crowd, super safe, and surrounded by the water.
Is that typically an older community, a retired community, or who are we seeing living there?
Brickell Key happened to have more older crowd, older crowd, right? Because the buildings were the condominiums were built 30 years ago, but the Brickell itself, not Brickell Key, the Brickell itself, a lot of new buildings.
Okay, got it.
If we go,
Are they doing short-term rentals there? Can you do short-term rentals in that community with the new condos?
Not all of them. Let's say, for instance, Flatiron allows monthly rent, which I consider to have. It's a short-term rent, so monthly rent is allowed. They don't allow to advertise on Airbnb though. Then Icon has 3 buildings, and I believe Icon 2 allows short-term. And it was amazing to see how the prices in this building went up 60% during the COVID, because the whole New York were coming to Miami, and it happened, as I said, that they really loved Brickell, because it feels like, you didn't live your own favorite city, but the weather's better, and the rules for COVID weren't that strict as in New York, and it happened that they wanted to live in Brickell, and no enough availability, and Icon was rented to this tiny 1-bedroom $400,000 apartment was rented for $500 a night with a full occupancy. So people are making a really good money, yes. And then the property, I remember I have a client, it's actually not my client, it's my associate client. She purchased the property for $380. It was 1-bedroom apartment, and within 8 months, this apartment, the price of this apartment jumped to $500,000 within a couple months. Because of the pandemic and because of high demand.
Where would the value be now that it's kind of cooled down? And literally, it's cooled down in Miami right now, 65 degrees. But
it's already 74. It was.
Is it 74? Okay, because I hear iguanas are falling out of the trees over there.
Everyone was complaining, like, oh my God, it's so cold. People were putting Uggs on, hats on. I swear. And then you go to the beach, and some people swimming, and other people, walking with a hat. And guess who's swimming? People from Canada. People from Canada, they come and they just jump in the water.
I get it. And so, what's the value of that apartment? Value of that apartment now that it's cooled down? Post-COVID, we're through that.
The prices it didn't drop. Like this particular building kept the price up. Yeah. If you look right now at Icon 2, you will see that I haven't looked for a long time because I don't have people that are requesting this building. But the last time I saw it was like $500,000, the least expensive property in the thing. And can you imagine?
What type of HOAs or fees are they looking at on top of that?
It's very reasonable. I believe it's about $1 per square foot. I would say it's going to be approximately $1,000 for HOA. If you allow me a couple of minutes, I can take a look. I wasn't ready to, speak about Icon 2.
We can follow up next time. Just out of curiosity. My other question would be: does that include concierge service and what type of level of amenities are you getting in a situation like this?
It's in a main building. So if you look, first of all, as I said, it's 3 buildings, and one of the buildings is W, and it has a great restaurant, Cipriani, that you can walk from your building. And then it has pool, spa, very nice spa. You can Google it. Next time we need to prepare and share the screen so we can show the amenities and we can show the pictures.
Sure.
It has gym. It has everything. It's very different from renting or buying in other cities. When you buy in Brickell, you buy a condominium. It's very hard to find a condominium without the amenities. It doesn't exist.
Let me
So it's
ask you
gonna
this.
be
Finish your thought. Finish your thought.
yeah, it's gonna be a front desk valet, beautiful pool, spa, gym, everything. You basically living in a resort in your own
Very nice.
apartment. Oh,
So you may have seen we're going to be doing a show in Boca Raton, and in Boca Raton, I know that a lot of the communities, like the private golf course communities, country club communities, require equity membership. Are you seeing stuff like that in a condo situation, or is that specific to like a golf course community?
it's not very common. If it does exist, yes, but in condominiums, it doesn't really exist that you have to, also buy some kind of membership or look, when you buy an apartment in condominium, you're not on just buying an apartment, you also own a very little tiny part of the building, including the amenities. And that's the difference between you buying condominium in a regular condo and you buying a condo hotel. When you buy a condo hotel, you buy your own room. Everything else doesn't belong to you and doesn't belong to the owners of the apartments. So it belongs to a third-party company that can manage it for you, or they can sell it or give it to someone else to manage. So that's the difference between condo hotel and condominium. Whenever you buy a condominium, you don't only own your own apartment, you also have a little tiny, let's say 100, there's 100 condominiums in this building. So that means that every owner owns a little piece of amenities.
Yeah, and it's I know they do that a lot in New York, also Manhattan, and I mean they're all over the country. But I mean, one of the nice things is it's like living permanently in a hotel. You can get, in many of them, you can get daily maid service, right? That comes in and cleans your place. You can get room service all hours of the night, that service the hotel too. I know in some condo hotels you have to pay a premium to get access to that service, and others it's an amenity. But I mean, if you really want carefree living and you can deal with a little bit more limitation in terms of space, right? Because they traditionally don't have the same kind of space allotted for some of those condos in terms of like closet space and things of that nature, right? That you might get in a home, but the amenities are absolutely out of this world. So, and to me, I think that's a perfect environment to do short-term rentals when you're not using it, or midterm rentals when they're available. And I think you can do quite well with that. And one of the things that Alina, you had mentioned to us in one of our previous discussions, you were talking about foreign nationals coming in and buying investment properties, and what kind of loan programs are available when it's not a residence and it's an investment property. And to me, there are so many wonderful programs that you can get a foreign national into. Some of the LTVs are not quite as high as what you can get with if you're a U.S. citizen. So we have a number of DSCR programs that a foreign national could come in, and if they had got 30% to come in as a down payment, and if they're wiring the funds in from a foreign account, you get rid of a lot of the seasoning issues too. But when you look at that, if you look at a 30% down coming into an investment property, it also makes it so easy with the income ratios on the property, that'll qualify them for the loan, so that they don't have to document any income. You just have to make sure that they've got enough funds available to meet those down payment requirements. But those are wonderful programs for foreign nationals to come into. And to me, I think when you're looking at things like the hotels or something there where you've got on-site staff doing a lot of the management, the day-to-day management, I think those are great opportunities for almost a hands-off kind of investment approach in a property where you can use it and then also rent it out to others when you're not there.
Yeah, and to add to that, a couple other things to think about with the foreign nationals. So some of our lenders require that they have on their trade lines, they have U.S. based like credit cards on their trade line, so that's part of the requirement when they run the credit. The other thing they could do instead of doing a DSCR, which is looking at the rental income to determine the income number for DTI ratios, they can use what's called asset depletion. So, for example, if they have $1 million in a savings account, one lender I know will do it divided over 84 months, and that number will become their income number that we use to qualify them for against the loan. One of the big important things is no matter who you're dealing with, you got to make sure your documentation is all translated to English. One of my lenders could not emphasize that enough to me, that how important that was to have done. They will not do that. You have to have translated before you bring it in.
Okay, let's write it down because I have clients from Mexico right now at this moment. If we buy a real estate in Miami, it has to be, and they want to finance it, right? They want to buy it and they want to finance it. So we're looking at 30% down, right? We're looking at 30% down.
Yep.
Then how the interest rate comparing? How's the interest rate comparing to residents and citizens of the United States? Is it?
They're going to be comparable to investment rates. So if you're looking at DSCR loans, you're looking at a 2 to 3% increase versus over just somebody buying a 30-year fixed for their primary residence. So that's where the comparable comes in, is really on investment properties, investment loans. But there's not a huge hit because they're a foreign national at all.
Yeah, so you can always count on residential loans because they, the tax treatment for residential lenders and the programs that are backed by the government help reduce those rates where they don't do the same thing on the commercial side. So, so those rates are always going to be higher, but yeah, they're basically the same as other commercial rates, and they're impacted significantly by the LTV on the property. So 30% down is the minimum down payment that they'll go with on a new purchase. But if somebody were to put 40% down, that's also going to be reflected in the rate. So,
well,
so
not only that, it also depends on the income too. If their debt to income ratio is lower, then you can have a better rate also.
Yeah. So
and we are looking at the income ratio of for this particular property. They don't have to show the income and the tax returns.
Correct.
So it's only for this particular property.
And again, looking at that, you're looking at a 1007 appraisal to determine what that is. Or if it was an existing short-term rental that had 12-month history, we could use that, and we could use air DNA data from that. But so it really depends on the unique situation. To Scott's point, there's so many different variables. I would be happy to take a look at your specific client and do a presentation on that exact client without their name redacted, of course, next week if you like. That'd be really actually a fun project.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a list and you will pick one.
Sure.
You mean a property? You give us a specific property.
Yeah, no, I want her client. I want to actually get her client's exact scenario.
Right. Because the problem with international clients that they don't know, and they're afraid of mortgages because they don't know how it works, and a lot of them, they come with cash, and why not to offer them to to finance.
I love that idea.
Maybe not one property, maybe buy two properties. Yeah.
Or buy a bigger property, right? I mean, because I know in Mexico.
Let me ask you a question as well.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Scott.
No, that's right. That's right.
Let me also ask you a question. There's an amazing project right now that was approved by government for EB5 program. And the EB5 program allows people to invest in a project and get residency. And I expect and hope that it will be a lot of interest from international clients that want to invest and also get green cards in the United States. The program allows you to purchase real estate, and then after I'm not going to go into details how they got qualified and why got qualified, right? But with purchasing real estate and also financing in the project, they are getting residency.
It's
After
an
they
it's an
close on the
investment. It's a business investment into the U.S., right? You have
it's a
EB-5 programs
business
and
and
investment. Yeah.
yes, but not every pre-construction is qualified.
Right.
You have to apply and get approved by the government in
Sure.
order to be qualified for EB-5. So my question is that these people invested, let's say, $1 million, so they got their residence in a couple of years, but then they said, okay, now I want refinance. So we also can refi, right, with no problems because but they're
They're a
already
resident.
going to be residents. If
Yeah.
a person not a resident, can he refinance, or he only can
But
get
you can
mortgage?
refinance. So even you can refinance a DSR into another DSCR. So hypothetically, let's say it's $1 million property, you put 30% down, so it's a $700,000 loan. And let's just say hypothetically, 5 years later, it's a $2 million value property. You could go out and do a refi on that, pull some money out for an investment, and refi's the max of 65%. So you could pull, you know, your loan value could be 1.3 million in that scenario as a non-resident. And then if you flip the script and you say somebody comes in, let's say they come in with an EB-5 program and it takes time to go through that and get the citizenship associated with it. You start with a foreign national DSCR program, and then you flip it to a U.S. citizen-based DSCR program, which gives you then higher LTVs. Take that plus the increased in value, and then that allows them to pull more money out.
Well, let's make one clarification on that though. If this is for them to live in a resident, the DSCR won't work. DSCR is strictly for investment property. So for them, I'd have to have if they have a social security card and do the I-10 loan.
Yeah, but if you're doing EB-5, that's you're making an investment into a property, so that's not.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be able to live there is the key. So it's an investment. So we got to make sure that Alina, I got to make sure I'm understanding your question. That's all.
Ted, let me take one step back.
Please.
The EB-5 program is about investment, not a residence to live in, right? So if you're making an investment in a real estate property, and you're then applying for citizenship versus using the EB-5, which has nothing to do with where you live. It has to do with the investment. So we are talking about a commercial property, income producing property that gets you citizenship, and then later you convert it to then you are a citizen when you go out and do your refi, and you can still stay in the DSCR program. And all DSCR.
At that point, you can come out of it. You can just do it as a resident and have it in an investment property and use full documentation. I mean, there's a number of different ways you could do that. But to Scott's point, with the DSCR loan or any of these loans, there's no restriction on the refi. And the only difference would be the LTV. It's like if I want to do a cash out refi on a DSCR loan, the LTV is going to be lower than if you're doing a brand new purchase.
Yeah. So, but it's only a 5% differential. So if you wait long enough, then, you've got a lot of increased value there. So there are a lot of ways to do it. And I also know EB-5, there's an employee, you've got to create jobs or you got to keep people employed. So, I mean, there are a couple of other elements to that program, but, there's a lot of ways to play that when you are trying to take advantage of some of those programs. And then if they have U.S. based income and they're paying U.S. based taxes for a portion of their income, they can also take advantage of the Jobs Act on that investment too and get a chunk of their down payment back. So, couple of different ways, but I would love to take a look at a specific foreign national situation and a property that
I would say let's leave EB-5 alone because it's more complex. I'm sure that when people go with EB-5, they probably will go cash. Especially, I need to find the details and speak with attorneys, but I think that's one of the requirements because they have to invest but then down the road, once they got residence, once they got green card and the status, I'm sure they can apply for refinancing.
I think, Alina, though, you're right. They do have to invest, but if their down payment is large enough and it meets the investment threshold, so you could potentially invest in a much.
Oh, that's right.
It could be a multi-unit property. It could be a rehab. It could be a number.
You're right. If say if it's a $3 million project, and then they put in the minimum requirement, which is what, $800,000, then they also have the finance the rest.
Right. So
Makes sense.
your down payment has to meet the investment requirements for the EB5. At least that's my
Makes
understanding.
sense.
And then you can leverage it with other money. And then so you can take that all the way through. So it could apply. But you're right. I mean, that is an added level of complication. And definitely Ted and I are not EB5 experts, but I did a lot. I worked with an outsourcing group out of India, and we were bringing a lot of people from India here, and we were always looking for ways to get them citizenship in the US to kind of fast track them through the process. So we had to deal with a lot of this. So pretty familiar with a lot of those rules and how they.
You see, now you can also own your own property. They had those programs before. It's not that easy to get approved for condominiums or projects like this, but once in a while it happens. That's why out of so many pre-constructions that Miami currently have, it's only so far one that I know of that is EB5 approved.
Maybe you find a foreign national or a EB5 program that is specialized in horse breeding or horse training, and they find a development that is a horse property, and you bring them in and they put their money into the horse property. Because I know somebody that I'm talking to that has a horse property listing that's ready for development. That'd be a perfect investment for an EB5 program, right? There's got to be a country where there's horse breeders that want to come to the U.S. I don't know.
That's a
Scott,
great idea.
you're an expert on that. Tell me.
I had a horse when I was a kid, so I know
I
a lot
had a
about
little horse toy when I was a kid.
That's
So
I
had a little.
Let's I love it. So, all right, let's get ready to wrap it up. We have to do one local destination featured in all of our areas. So, Scott, I'll lead with you, and then I'll let Alina go, then I'll go.
So I think a beautiful place to go have a meal, romantic or not, however you choose to do it. But go to the Terracina property, which is a Trump property that is in the Palos Verdes Hills. It overlooks the ocean. It's absolutely a stunning view. You can do a hike, kind of a back way hike that gets you into the hotel and takes you along the cliffs, which are absolutely stunningly beautiful with like a kelp garden beneath you. Several different restaurants there to go to, or just go get a cocktail, take a book, and read out by the water. It's a stunningly beautiful place to check out. Makes you feel like you're in Europe.
Do you know how hard I'm holding back on doing a Trump imitation right now?
Yeah, hold back. Don't do it.
I'm trying so hard not to do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. All right, that's fine.
And there's a lot of Trump properties in Florida too. But okay, Alina, so what do you have?
Yeah.
Well, Brickell, right? Brickell.
Yeah.
Brickell. We're talking about Brickell. I'm gonna be talking about restaurant. It's fusion Chinese, Komodo. Am I saying it right? Komodo. I'm sure it's Komodo. It's a very beautiful restaurant, always packed. Make a reservation in advance. Has cool vibe with a lot of young people. Outdoor is spectacular. They made it as a little nest, the balconies as a nest, and it's just a great place to visit and have your Peking duck. Have you ever tried Peking duck?
I have.
I
have.
love it. It has the best Peking duck. I think $120. Extremely expensive, but it's worth it.
Very nice. Okay, so my destination point is going to be an area. I think every city has a Chinatown. Our Chinatown is located on Spring Mountain Road, and what's interesting about Spring Mountain Road? It's not just Chinese-based or Asian-based businesses. There's amazing restaurants. There's a French restaurant. There's amazing steakhouses. There's all sorts of just really cool restaurants on Spring Mountain Road. So if you want to go something that's not on the strip and you want to experience amazing dining experience, you got to hit Spring Mountain Road. Now, I'll talk about one specific place. It's a coffee house called Gabby Coffee House. And it's like in a warehouse. If you look on the outside, you're like, I see nothing. There's a big brown door, like you're going in a dungeon. You have no idea what you're going into. But when you walk in, it's like being in the 1900s in a small little Asian. I think it's Korean. I'm pretty sure it's Korean. Asian Korean interior, like you're in the outside of a little city. They have like I don't even know how to say it, like a chairs that go up like a library with all the books and a little slide to go down, and you just see people sitting up there talking, conversating. It's hard to get a table. You got to wait. Amazing pastries, a crepe cake. The rainbow crepe cake is amazing, but just really cool coffee. Good quality, but a neat place to go to. Highly recommend Gabby Coffee on Spring Mountain Road in Chinatown.
Beautiful.
By the way, Miami doesn't have Chinatown. You said every city has. Miami doesn't have Chinatown. We don't have Chinatown. Yep.
Well, with that, I hear opportunity, guys. We're opening Chinatown. All right. Well, that's our time.
Come open the Chinatown.
Yes. Okay, guys. So that's our time for this week. We'll be returning back next week for Alina Melodine. For Scott Benson, I'm Ted Hicks, the Real Estate Mortgage Insiders. Have a great week, everybody.